However, when I stood on the Flughafen in Frankfurt and saw this big monster on the earth being brought out, it dwarfed me in a way. Once on board, I had taken my camera and I wanted to take a picture as the Zeppelin was leaving the ground. The word ship up had been given, and very quietly, without even noticing anything, the Zeppelin started to rise in the air.
She was the most elegant airship ever built. The Hindenburg was the pride of Nazi Germany. Launched a year earlier, she had already made 17 transatlantic crossings. So successful was she that 11 extra passenger cabins were added for her first flight of 1937.
And I was astounded how large the accommodations were. Big living room, dining room, recreation rooms. And as we were called to dinner, I had a feeling not that I was on a Zeppelin or up in the air, that I was back on a big ocean liner again. I had no thoughts where they could prepare food like that. I found out later on that they had a complete kitchen, an electrified kitchen and everything on board. And more, I had more confidence. That strangeness that I had first in being dwarfed by the monster left me, especially where I was inside in those great recreation rooms with everyone being happy. At no time do I think that anyone ever mentioned that something could happen. It seemed too safe. And I started to film anything that I thought would be of interest to me, my family, or anyone that one could see doing a flight of the Zeppelin. Then in the distance, I saw the first lightning. One of the officers of the Zeppelin, and he came over to me and started to talk to me and tell me there is nothing to worry about. That a Zeppelin can fly right through a storm, or like in our case right now, we will fly right around it. We saw great, huge icebergs sticking out of the ocean. And at that time, I was thinking about the Titanic. I could not help thinking about it, how dangerous it must be on the ocean in riding around and then hitting an iceberg.
Unlike American airships, the Hindenburg used hydrogen because the U.S. was the sole source of helium, and sale of the gas to Germany was forbidden.
We came along Long Island Sound and then of course saw New York, which was to me the most thrilling thing. After cruising around New York, we made for Lakehurst and the skies became a little dark. The weather looked troublesome ahead. It's not so easy to land such a bulk as a Zeppelin in anything but a very quiet wind. We were now informed that we cannot land at this time because the weather conditions were unfavorable.
On the ground, the crowd included those waiting to board the Hindenburg for her return flight, a contingent of reporters, and a radio announcer named Herb Morrison.
How do you do, everyone? We're greeting you now from the Naval Air Base at Lakehurst, New Jersey, from which point we're going to bring you a description of the landing of the mammoth airship Hindenburg, which was due here in America this morning at dawn, completing the first transatlantic crossing of the 1937 season. Well, here it comes, ladies and gentlemen, and what a great sight it is. A thrilling one. It's a marvelous sight. It's coming down out of the sky, pointed directly towards us and toward the mooring mast. The ship is riding majestically toward us like some great feather, riding as though it was mighty proud of the place it's playing in the world's aviation. The ship is no doubt bustling with activity, as we can see. Orders are shouted to the crew. The passengers are probably lining the windows, looking down at the field ahead of them, getting their glimpse of the mooring mast.
There were people below waving up to us, and I thought with what I could see, it was my wife and children, and I put the camera against my eye and tried to take a picture of it.
It's practically standing still now. They've dropped ropes out of the nose of the ship. It's been taken a hold up down on the field by a number of men. It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it. It burst into flames. Wait, get out of the way. Get it started, get it started. It's crashing, and it's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my, get out of the way, please. It's burning, bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast. All the folks between us. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's running. Oh, the humanity and all the passengers screaming around me. I don't do it. I can't talk to people. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's just laying down massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can hardly breathe and talking, screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside where I cannot see it. Charlie, that's terrible. I can...
My first thought was out. People began to scream and holler. I took the camera and hit this plastic window, and I started to climb out. My left leg caved in as I hit the ground. I was trying to crawl away, and then I saw this big man. He came running toward me, picked me up, dragged me clear, and ran with me, and then threw me down on the ground.
I raced down to the burning ship. I met a man coming out, dazed. He couldn't find his way. I grabbed a hold of him. To Mr. Spay, it sounds like Spay, we're not sure of it. And he told me he jumped. He jumped with other passengers.
I knew that I was very fortunate. And I said that thanks to God that he spared me for now.
The only thing I can do say that, I don't know, it all happened so fast. There isn't much to figure about. I do think that I'm very lucky that I'm sitting home here in my own home again after this experience this afternoon. And as I said before, I'm just happy.
The calls that we have, the people that I meet consistently, if there are new people, someone will go and remind them. And I became the man that jumped off the Hindenburg. And one day I went into a little dry goods store to get a newspaper and some candy, and there were 3 little girls. And as I came in, one said, "Oh, this is Mr. Spa, this is the man." I could hear this, and I had an idea. This will be about the Hindenburg again. So finally one of them said, "Why don't you go over and ask him?" So one of them came over, and she said, "Mr. Spa, are you really the man that fell off the Empire State Building?"